A manpower crunch is one major reason why some caterers are struggling with food safety lapses in Singapore. Experts say volatile staffing is increasing the odds of human error at a time when demand has surged to new peaks since the pandemic. Now, it comes amid food poisoning cases over the past months. For more, we have in the studio with us our reporter, Metteo. Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us in the studio tonight. You spoke to food hygiene consultancy firms on the ground. What did they tell you about the common lapses that they are seeing these days?
Yes, Shah, I think you made a right point about how we are really looking at this topic on food poisoning on the back of a lot of high-profile food poisoning cases in the last couple and several months. So I spoke to one consultancy firm who saw about a 30% increase in requests to audit kitchens this year so far. And I also spoke to several other hygiene consultancy firms just to find out exactly what are some of the common lapses that they have identified on the ground. Let's take a look at some photos, shall we? Okay, so with this first photo, Shao, I'd just like to ask you, what do you think is wrong in this set of photos?
All right, I see you're quizzing me here, Rebecca. But I think it has something to do with the blue ice scoop. I'm thinking it's not supposed to be there. It's supposed to be, placed in a clean container of some sort, perhaps.
Yes. I think you're absolutely right. So because this ice scoop is actually resting on the pile of ice, this increases the risk of contamination. Say if the food handler holds this ice scoop with a dirty hands, it may contaminate the whole pile of ice there. And you certainly do not want all these ice cubes to get into your drinks. And now the next photo that's closest to me, you see a knife that's resting on a chopping board. The same problem, the handler is also touching the surface of the chopping board. So these are some of the lapses that they have found. So in the next set of photos, it may not be that obvious, but these pastries and breads, as you might have realized in your daily lives as well, they may not look or smell bad. Sometimes we take the risk to perhaps just eat it even though it's past its expiry date, say for 1 or 2 days, right? But actually you are not supposed to do that. So once it has passed its expiry date, they must be thrown away. Now let's look at another set of photos. Now I'm going to quiz you again. So what do you think is wrong in this set of photos?
I think this is a little bit more obvious. I'm seeing dirty kitchen corners, that rat stuck to the glue trap, cockroaches and insects. I know they're not supposed to be there as well.
Yes,
right?
It's quite unsightly, right? But yes, you're absolutely correct. You look at the rat that's stuck on the glue trap. We do not know how long that rat has been there. And similarly, in the photo that's closest to me, you see a lot of insects and even cockroaches. And what I've heard from the food hygiene consultancy firms is that a lot of times, a lot of these insects are located near where people handle food. So imagine them dropping into your food. It's really not a great idea, right? And the last one is actually, I guess, also another common mistake that can happen in households too. So thawing of these frozen meats. So look at all these frozen meats. They are thrown into the sink and placed in water. So this is actually a wrong way to thaw meat. The proper way to defrost frozen meat is to actually put them in a sealed bag and put them under running water. That's way it's safe for everybody eating the meat once it's cooked. So these are also some of the top few lapses that the food hygiene consultancy firms have found recently on the ground.
So now that we have seen these very problematic photos, Rebecca, why do lapses happen in the kitchen?
Right, so these lapses that you are seeing actually happens across catering, restaurants, and even those established restaurants as well. And one common denominator is really because of human error, as you have earlier pointed out. And I asked Jesse Tan, who is a food safety consultant, what could be some of the reasons behind these lapses. And he said that, on the ground, he found out that some staff actually did not even have a basic food hygiene certificate, and that's really quite worrying. And of course, improper upkeep of the kitchen, and in general, this lack of initiative to make sure that the kitchens are clean.
But the recent food poisoning cases, Rebecca, they affected big names, very established brands. What could be the reason for those cases?
Right, actually, the situation has changed in the last 2 years. So businesses have seen an uptick of orders increasing to 10% because, work from home arrangements are phasing out. Social activities and weddings are also coming back. So the association representing caterers actually told me that while there there's not been an increase in the number of new businesses entering the industry, but business activity has actually increased. So what this means is that existing companies, catering firms have to shoulder all this demand by scaling their operations. So in fact, business activity increased about 19% in the last 3 to 4 years. And now the challenge is really finding manpower to meet all this demand, right? The association says that it's become worse, especially around the festive period. We have one just round the corner. So one food safety consultant told me that the industry is also very dependent on foreign labor. That means that a lot of the majority of the workers are actually from Malaysia, and our Singapore workers are also getting on age. So even though there are about 800,000 registered food workers in Singapore, when it comes to crunch time, this number is just not enough. So when it's not enough, the firms will turn to part-time staff. So when they are really desperate, they will just take on any workers as long as they have some sort of experience in F&B, and perhaps they've taken food safety courses quite a while ago, and they might be very new in this industry as well. So another thing is that if they really cannot find workers, they will have to just make do with their existing pool of workers. That means they have to take on more workload. And this is also where lapses may happen. So for more, let's hear from our food safety consultant, Jessie Tan.
Perhaps they might need a basic of about 5 to 6 food handlers or kitchen staff, you may put it, but they might not have 6. Maybe 1 or 2 is not working today, and then they fall short, they have 4. So this is the lapse where they come in. So when you have a shortage of manpower, there are a lot of things you would not be able to maintain. Like for example, the basic or the minimum cooking time for this particular food item might not be met already.
So manpower shortage seems to be the issue here, Rebecca. What are firms doing to get around that to ensure food safety?
Right, I think as I mentioned earlier, on the back of high-profile food poisoning cases, a lot of firms, businesses are naturally very worried about this. So they're actually taking active steps, such as sending their staff to get training on food safety and to ramp up in-house checks and to tighten internal controls, essentially. So I joined one of these classes to find out exactly what the staff could be learning.
Example, your cleaning detergents, your hand soap. Okay, so you cannot keep it together with your food item, and also pesticide. All these we have to keep it separately from the food.
The do's and don'ts of food hygiene are taught here, but topics in this advanced level course include how to audit kitchens, manage suppliers, keep proper records, and deal with food recalls. It's for restaurants and caterers which want to attain a globally recognized standard. Sign-ups have risen, and the consultancy firm is holding more classes.
Many food establishments are now adopting recognized food safety management system, as clients increasingly requiring them to have food safety certification. And also due to the recent high-profile food poisoning cases, it creates the urgency for businesses to implement a more comprehensive food safety management system to protect the public health and also to prevent the contamination.
ISRC is among firms that also conduct basic food safety courses offered at 3 levels. The lowest is required for all food handlers by law and teaches things like personal hygiene. Among other things, the highest level trains them to address lapses as well as manage manpower with proper cleaning and cooking rosters. Still, the consultancy says mistakes can happen if kitchen designs cannot cope with massive orders. So they also teach how to maximize workflow and yet keep food safe to eat.
The placement of different items in a kitchen like this is also important for ensuring food safety. For example, personal items and detergents should be kept separate from food items. And also, color-coded chopping boards for different types of food is a simple yet effective practice. For more, I have with me food safety consultant and trainer to tell me more. Hi Fong Ying, so could you tell me more about how a kitchen can be organized to ensure food safety?
Sure. We use different colors, for example, red colors, tones to handle the raw meat. And all the food items need to be kept in airtight and cover container to prevent cross-contamination. And before we store it in the fridge, we need to have proper labeling to indicate the product name as well as the expiry date.
Learners are also taught how to set up separate workstations for raw, cooked and ready-to-eat food to reduce the risk of contamination.
Sure, they can have all this in place to train workers in the right kitchen design, but there comes a point where the kitchen can just no longer manage that kind of huge surge, that kind of surge in orders. So based on, it's really dependent on the ethics of the company to really take orders based on their capacity and not go beyond that.
All right, thank you very much, Rebecca.